Hello DIY friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Danie, your friendly neighborhood DIYer, and today is a very exciting day because I am launching a brand new series called Can I Make It For Cheaper? We all want the latest and greatest decor trends in our home, but the price, well, not so much. It's like, I'm sorry, how much does that vase cost? How much does that throw blanket? That cabinet cost what? In this series, I'm going to be taking some of my favorite high-priced decor items and do my best to replicate it in a DIY way. But I'm gonna try to do it in a way that's hopefully as high-end as I can make it. And hopefully for 1/3 of the price. Because here's the thing, I love a good DIY duplication of a high-end decor item, but if you're going to spend the money to DIY something, let's make it quality. So at the end, we will do a summary of costs to really evaluate if you can DIY these items for cheaper, or if maybe it's just better to buy the item at the end of the day. That is what this series is meant to find out. But before we jump into this wonderful DIY series, I would like to thank the sponsor of this episode, Squarespace. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform that helps you build custom websites so that you can share all of your passions with the world like I do. I will talk a little bit more about this coming up, but in the meantime, let's jump into this crazy decor new series. I'm excited. Editor, roll the tape. Boop. Okay, West Elm, you're on the DIY chopping block. For this episode of Can I Make It For Cheaper? I'm focusing on 2 standing mirrors from West Elm. The first being this gorgeous industrial metal and wood floor mirror valued at $750. Oh, and look at that, is currently on sale for $600. And the second mirror is a metal framed arched floor mirror valued at $825, but currently on sale for $660. Sadly, even these sale prices are still too high for my current wallet. Yikes. I have always wanted a standing floor mirror, you know, like a full body, see the full outfit, take a selfie with your phone kind of mirror, and I've never had that, so I decided I'm gonna change this for my new home. Which, speaking to that, as you guys know, I am currently in the process of moving, which is basically why my entire home is pretty barren right now except for plants. All of my DIY gear is currently packed away, so I went off to a more spacious and picturesque location, my parents' house in the country. Good morning! I like your sweater, Mom. We look like twinsies. That's nice.
We are going to get messy.
Yeah, well, hopefully. We got Vince here. Hello. And we have our mirrors. 1, 2. To create these DIYs, you obviously need the mirrors. I got mine both custom made. Ladies and gentlemen, it is so easy to get a custom mirror created. All you need to do is call your local mirror and glass shop and say, hey, I would like a custom mirror at this current dimension, and they'll go,
great, can you pick it up on Friday?
And you're like, yes, I can. It is literally that easy. So I had my local shop cut one mirror at 30 by 74 inches and a second mirror at 28 by 74 inches with a custom arch cut at the top. If the mirror that you want has an intricate or ornate kind of cut into it, you probably will have to create a template for them. You can make this out of cardboard and you can measure it out. It's really simple, but you're going to save so much money by custom creating your own mirror, and better yet, you get the mirror that you want at the size you want it at the price you wanted. Hallelujah! You're up, big guy. Starting with the metal framed arched floor mirror, the mirror itself cost me a total of $134 Canadian. Let's go ahead and add that to our DIY cost calculator. To create some structure for my mirror, I purchased a piece of 1/2-inch plywood cut to the dimensions of my mirror at the hardware store so that my mirror could have a little stability behind it. Using a premium construction adhesive, I added this to the top of the plywood sheet and carefully clamped the mirror down, being careful to protect the glass surface if needed, and of course being aware of the amount of pressure I was applying because I didn't want to crack the mirror. A PL glue will take 24 hours to fully cure, so keep this in mind if you do it at home. The glue to my life in this room. I was clearly talking about you, Mom. Next, I was focused on the black metal sides to this mirror. This proved some obvious challenges because I really wanted to keep that metal look, and if I knew how to weld, I would totally have done that. 2021, here we come. So instead, I sourced these 2 1-inch U-channel aluminum moldings from my hardware store that actually fit around my mirror and 1/2-inch plywood perfectly. What a dream! There was maybe like 1/8 of a gap left in that U-shaped aluminum molding, but I wasn't worried about this, and I'll explain that in a later step. These two moldings came in 8-foot lengths, so I used a metal saw blade to cut both pieces to size. To make sure the ends weren't sharp or dangerous, I simply took a file to dull them down. If you don't own a file, simple alternatives are a high grit sandpaper, a sanding block, a pumice stone, or maybe even a brick. It's definitely not like filing nails, that's for sure. So I wanted those aluminum pieces to obviously be black like the original. So I actually ended up sourcing 3 different spray paints because I wasn't really sure how they would end up looking on the aluminum, and I wanted to test them ahead of time. Technically, I'm spending the money ahead of time for you guys, so if you want to make this, you'll know which one you like the most based on my tests. So this one is a metallic carbon mist. This one is giving it a hammered look. Oh, that's kind of fun. And then I have matte black. The hammered look gives it like, it's a little bit of a, well, a hammered look. So it's more textured. We got the carbon black here, which isn't such like a deep black. It's a little bit more of an off gray. And it has a little bit of a sheen to it, as you can see. But it's quite nice. It looks really realistic. And then of course we have the matte black, which is pretty obviously black. After these were done drying, the clear winner was carbon mist. Ta-da! We're gonna go carbon mist. It provided the most realistic look for this project, and that's really all I wanted. But you just don't know until you know, you know? So testing is crucial. From there, I set up my little spray station and sprayed both pieces down, providing them with a good even coat. Once you've covered all sides of your aluminum, this is optional, but I sprayed mine with a clear coat finish just to lock in the paint and make it a little more durable. Moving on to the wood portion of this mirror, I sourced 2 1/4 inch oak hobby boards from the hardware store. Cut them to fit between both the U-frames on the mirror and stain them using the stain color Special Walnut. Oh man, is it just me, or is watching a board get stained so satisfying? There's something about seeing the wood grain just become a little bit more clear. Like, I could watch it all day. Is that just me? Cause like, whoo! So good. Once all my pieces were dry, it was time to finally assemble this mirror together. Using silicone, I carefully ran a bead down the inside edge of each aluminum frame and secured it in place. The silicone was perfect for this because it filled in that small 1/8 gap and made that frame so nice and snug. I also used the silicone on the back of my wood piece and carefully secured it in place. One tip that I realized, and I'm passing it on to you guys ahead of time, is make sure you stain the underside of your hobby board. I say this because what I didn't realize is when you put the mirror down, obviously it's going to reflect the backside. Like, duh. Just FYI, I didn't realize that, but it was a happy mistake that my stain actually ended up absorbing onto the edges, so it all kind of worked itself out in a happy mistake, but passing it on to you because I didn't think about it and it would have been too late when I realized. But luckily it all worked out. As a last step, I ended up taking some of the spray paint and spraying it into a dish so I could paint the exposed edges on the mirror ends. Was this necessary? Not really, because you're probably never going to see the top edge or the bottom edge, but I'm a perfectionist. I wanted to do this and I have a feeling you guys probably will too. Then I just let the silicone cure for a good 24 hours and voila! My very own West Elm inspired industrial metal and wood floor mirror duplicate for my home. I gotta say, I think I did a pretty darn good job recreating this mirror. I think it looked just like the original. It had real metal sides and those warm accent wood pieces on the top and bottom. It was stunning. Of course, I wanted to show this mirror in its full glory, so I set this up in my room at my mom's, and I gotta say, it looked so good. I was so excited to get this into my own house. But the real conversation here is the final tally. As a reminder, the original cost of this was a total of $750 Canadian or $600 on sale. I actually went through and evaluated what it would cost with tax and shipping to my own house, and that was $987.85. And my grand total to DIY the entire mirror was $272.23. With Canadian tax, that came to a total of $307.62. DIY friends, I built this for 1/3 of the cost. Of course, I'm not factoring my time into this. If I amalgamated the time it took to go to the hardware store, build the whole thing in a matter of 2 days, I would say it probably took a total of like 5 to 6 hours. And that is pretty darn good. So the question is, can I make it for cheaper? Yes, I can make it for cheaper. Taking a quick break from our epic mirror making, I'd like to talk about the sponsor of today's episode, Squarespace. The feature I use the most on my Squarespace site is the blog tool. If you're thinking of starting a blog to share all your incredible ideas and passions, then stand out with a beautiful, professionally designed template that can be customized to fit your brand and storytelling. And don't worry, these layouts are completely flexible, so you can customize the color palette, play with fonts, search for fun images through Unsplash, or use their built-in photo editing capabilities. And once it's created, you can discover which posts are most popular with in-depth analytics. What I love the most is that you can set custom permissions and schedule posts, add contributors with individual permissions, and set posts to go live on a particular date to turn your blog into a publication. Ooh, so fancy. You can organize your posts to make it easy for readers to find new and related content, and then promote your blog and drive traffic with built-in SEO, email campaigns, and connected social media accounts. And if all this makes your eyes roll to the back of your head like it did for me, don't sweat. You can use their custom support team either on email or live chat, and they will help you figure this all out. They can help you find the perfect blog layout, help you find your RSS feed, or help you tackle any other blog related issues that you're having challenges with. So if you are looking for the perfect domain to build your custom website, head to squarespace.com to start your free trial. And when you are ready, go to squarespace.com/DIY-Danie to get 10% off your first website or domain. Go now, build your dreams. Moving on to the second mirror, we have the gold metal framed arched floor mirror. Anything arch is very trendy right now. I love this trend, I am into it, and I'm excited. Sourcing the mirror itself cost me a total of $157 Canadian. Let's go ahead and add that to the DIY cost calculator. Again, this cost was higher than the rectangle one because of the intricate arched top that they had to cut. Now, I don't know about you, but still paying $157 for a beautiful custom arched mirror is totally worth it. Like, honestly, you could just add some support on the back of that mirror and like call it a day. Like, done. I'm done. Walk away, go home, DIY is over. But obviously we are not going to do that. We are going to use our DIY spirits to make that gold frame just like the original, so here we go. With this project, I was already off to a good start, or possibly 7 years of bad luck. I accidentally chipped the bottom of the mirror, taking out a big chunk. Oh, Danie, why? Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I was just gonna leave it. I actually had the chunk that fell out and I was just gonna pop it back in, glue it, and then deal with the little crack. But my mom and my stepfather, Vince, they actually do stained glass, so they have all the tools to cut glass properly, and Vince was feeling very confident that we could just shorten the mirror a little bit by 3 inches and we wouldn't have the crack anymore. You feel confident that you can cut this piece of glass and not make it break?
Yeah.
It's on camera.
Oh, no.
So I reflected on this moment and gambled with my money and put all chips in the cord with Vince. So Vince scored a line across and then began lightly tapping underneath to create a breaking point. That experience was nerve-wracking.
I don't think it etched it enough on this one. That's why it's not.
What's breaking?
How confident are you?
Right now?
Put it on the line of the MDF.
Yep.
You might be able to crack it.
And the mirror broke off just great. A small nib was left behind, but that was an easy fix with a bit of filing. And if you're going to break your own mirror at home, just make sure you file or sand the edges of the mirror so it is not sharp. So we were back in business with a 70-inch length mirror, and it was time to build that frame. Now what we need to do is measure it 1 inch, give it a 1 inch gap all the way around, and then we're gonna trace it onto this MDF. To build the frame, I decided to use a 3/4 inch MDF board that I had pre-cut at the hardware store. MDF is a super easy material to work with, and knowing that this mirror was going to live inside, you kind of find a place and it sits there, I wasn't too worried about using material that wasn't great for outdoor situations or water. Alternatively though, you could create this frame with plywood and edge band the sides, or you could do multiple boards with a glue up. All of it will get you the same end result. It's really your preference. I had my sheet of MDF pre-cut with 2 inches added to my width to provide me with a 1 inch gap on all sides of my mirror. To ensure I was properly lining my mirror up to that 1 inch gap, I actually cut out a 1 inch scrap piece from my 1/2 inch oak hobby board as a guide. Both Vince and I took a piece and ran it across the sides at the same time, and then measured 1 inch up on the piece and used this to mark 1 inch around the arch. Once I was all lined up, I took a pencil and traced out my mirror. From there, I simply did the same thing, but this time I used my guide to create a 1/2 inch mark on the inside of the mirror frame, as this will be my cut line for later. At this point, it was actually getting nice outside, so I decided to take my work out to the good old sun.
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. That's real nice. Real nice.
Taking a quick moment to do a little tool talk here. I'm laying out a series of jig blades because I wanted to show you all the variations in different blades your jigsaw can use. So depending on the material you are cutting and how you want to cut it, this can dictate the type of blade that you'll choose for your jigsaw. The white and red blades are usually an indication for cutting metal materials versus wood and plastic, and the rest reveal the precision and cutting you want for your project. I was cutting through MDF, which literally cuts like butter, so I was looking for a blade that would cut precise and give me a nice clean finish. So I went with a smooth cut blade, but you could have also used a fine cut blade. Both would have provided you with a great end result. The rule of thumb is the finer the teeth on the blade, the more precise it's going to cut your material. I'm also adjusting the speed match on the side in accordance to my material. So just following my inside line, I first drilled 2 holes at the bottom corners that were large enough to fit my jigsaw blade. From there, all I had to do was use my jigsaw to carefully follow my line and cut the entire frame out. Now that the inside frame was cut out, it was time to create a groove along the inside edge that would allow me to put the mirror inside the frame, kind of like a picture frame. To create this frame, I was using my router with a 1/2 inch rabbet joint bit that essentially removes a 1/2 inch piece from the top of your frame to basically create a little seat. So this is my router, and this is what a rabbet bit looks like. I wanted to take it off the router, but I couldn't find my tool to let this happen because it's all packed away, so we're showing you on the router. So with the router, you can adjust the depth in which you cut into your board, but your router bit is actually what dictates how big that joint is going to be. So this is a 1/2 inch rabbet joint, so this is only going to give me a 1/2 inch little seat. You can go smaller, you can go bigger, but what I love about this rabbet joint is that it dictates how big it's going to be. You can't really mess it up. From there, I ended up realizing that I needed a little bit more of my inside wall cutaways, so I used my small handheld router, adjusting the depth to the same 1/4 inch, and used a 1/4 inch straight bit to cut some of that wall back. Now, this router and bit is a little bit more tricky because unlike a rabbet joint, it doesn't have anything to stop you. You're going rogue, you're going handheld essentially. This one is a little bit different because you might need to create a jig that will let you basically router a precise line. Now, I wasn't overly worried about creating a precise line on the inside frame because no one was going to see it. I just needed to take away enough that was going to allow my mirror to sit in, and then it was going to be held down with silicone anyway. So a little imperfection in a place that no one's going to see is completely fine for me. From there, I used my jigsaw to cut out the rest of the top arch and then sanded down all the edges to make it nice and uniform and clean all around. And a big moment had arrived, and it was time to fit the mirror into the frame for the first time. Fingers crossed it all worked out.
No.
Oh my gosh.
I'll take this one for my room.
It looks good, my friends. It looks darn good. Okay, so let's lift it out and then prep it for painting. It was finally time to paint this bad boy. To give it a gold framed look, I was using Rust-Oleum's metallic gold spray paint. Now, if you're using MDF like me, the challenge with this material is that it's very porous and it'll soak up a lot of the paint. I thought about priming it with white paint first, which would kind of help that gold spray paint look a little bit more vibrant, but I had done a little bit of testing ahead of time and I realized that spray painting right onto the brown MDF actually kind of gave it like a more antique-y old look, which was more my style. However, I will share a cool hack that I recently learned about painting MDF. This was after this project. I didn't know this when I was doing the project, so I'm just passing the wisdom on. My fellow colored hair DIYer Elisha, also known as the Pneumatic Addict, shared on her blog that you can actually use a shellac spray on the MDF first and then you spray paint on top. If you do this, it's going to give you a really clean, finished look. I thought this was really cool, so I will link that article in my description box, so if you're curious on how to paint MDF, you can go check that out. I'm excited to learn new tips and tricks all the time, so I can't wait to apply this on my next project. I applied 2 coats of the gold and once completely dry, put on a satin clear coat finish on top. As I mentioned, this was going to live inside, so I felt pretty confident that a quick and dirty top coat was going to be just fine for this piece. The next day, I put a bead of silicone around the inside lip of my frame and carefully fit the mirror into the frame like a piece of art. Once in, I applied a second bead around the edge and simply let that cure for a full 24 hours. Ta-da! A custom West Elm inspired gold arched floor mirror for my home. I love it! Now, I know this wasn't metal like the original, but for a duplicate version, I thought this looked pretty awesome. It carried all that same characteristics that I loved about the bought version, but had the satisfaction of being a piece that you made yourself. And y'all know I can get behind that. But we all know the real conversation is about the final tally, so let's tally it up. As a reminder, the original mirror cost a total of $825 Canadian, currently on sale for $660. Along with the evaluated cost including tax and shipping to my home in Toronto, this mirror would cost a total of $1,000 and change. My grand total to DIY the entire mirror was $223.41. With Canadian tax all included, that was $252.45. So maybe my frame wasn't metal, but I think I'll take my MDF frame and save $800. I do think if I built this again, I would make it with plywood versus MDF and then just edge band the side. But even if I had decided to make both versions, I still wouldn't even exceed the total cost of this mirror. So, the real question is, can you make this mirror for cheaper? Yes, you can make it for cheaper and it's DIY Danie approved. Thank you so much for watching this brand new series, Can I Make It For Cheaper? What do you think? How did I do? Would you make these mirrors yourself or would you just go to the store and buy it at the end of the day? What's your preference? Let me know which one was your favorite in the comment section below. And just a heads up, next week, sadly, I won't be posting a video. I'm going to be in the middle of a giant move, finally saying goodbye to this place and saying hello to my brand new purchased home. So the following week is actually going to be my first empty home tour, so you guys will get a chance to see my new home, and I am so excited to share it with you guys because it's gonna be awesome, and the changes that we're gonna make in that space is going to be epic, and I can't wait to share the journey. And of course, thank you to the sponsor of this episode, Squarespace. If you are looking to build your own custom website, click the link in my bio to get 10% off your first website or domain. Save some money! Now that this series is established, I'm going to be looking to all of you to help me determine which items I try to make for cheaper. So you can either email me with the subject line, "Can I make it for cheaper?" or you can DM me on Instagram at DIY Danie. Let's find out and see if we can make things for cheaper. As always, stay positive, stay creative, and keep on DIYing. I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.